Hello everybody! Today I want to talk about the evolution and the current state of blue-white control in Pioneer. Okay, Pioneer has changed a lot, right? Has changed a lot since even Grand Prix Brussels, which I attended. And today, what I'll be doing is one, talk about blue-white Skura Thirst control, which I played at GP Brussels. Two, look at my current blue-white classic control deck list. Look at my changes I think I want to make in the future, and look at some cards people have been asking me about very often, and tell you why I think they are or are not playable right now, or in general, and in general what my opinion on them is. And so blue-white Skura Thirst control. This is the deck which I championed for quite some time, and the basic difference between it and other builds is 2-mana enchantment removal, right, including Silk Wrap, and or Baffling End. Doesn't change a lot, doesn't matter. Instead of, for example, Azorius Charm. 3 Thirst for meaning as the brainstorm of the deck, right? Because it if you don't discard an enchantment, it doesn't provide you card advantage. It provides you very powerful card selection, right? Which means if you go turn 2 Omen into Pop, or turn 2 Omen into Thirst, or just turn 3 Thirst, it's very difficult not to have, let's say, turn for Verdict. Very powerful card selection. Or card advantage. If you, for example, ditch a Seal Away or a Silk Wrap, should be dead, right? 3 cast out, right? It's a bit high number, but in this build, with quite high floor on the card, because we can always cycle it. 3 cards and 2 Syncopate as another piece of turn 2 interaction, right? Basically here. Sideboard, that was my sideboard for Brussels. And if you follow me, you'll see that my sideboards very often contain like these cards, really. I really like to Dream Trawler. I really like 2 or 3 Mentor. I really like 2 or 3 Dispute. I like 1 or 2 Veto. This is basically 2 because it's 1 here, 1 here. 2 Rip and 2 or 3 or 4 Gust. Right? I think these cards are excellent in the format. And so what made me change first into classic control was one, the fact that I wanted to explore the classic build, right? Because people have been asking me a lot about it, and I was like, don't know really, I've been playing Thirst. So 1, exploration, and 2, I found the format to shift a bit away from creatures. So that's the first key takeaway. If your local meta or format in general skews a bit more toward creature decks, or you just want to be better against creature decks, this is absolutely excellent. And also on top of that, I think this package is excellent against spirits, okay? Because you don't care about Selfless Spirit, you don't care about Wanderer, right? You can just basically unconditionally take the creature. But still, right? And please remember, blue-white control has got like this core of like 60 cards, and the rest is just, will probably will change the flow of the deck a bit, in some direction, but generally it will work well. You've got counter magic, card selection, planeswalkers, dig, mass removal, good sideboard cards. So like that's the recipe for success. Now the rest of them is just a mishmash of your preference, the local meta, and your willingness to beat more these decks or those decks, right? So do I mean that this deck is bad against combo or control? Absolutely not, because again, having played a ton with this deck, you've got common play patterns of turn 2 Omening, and then you basically never tap out, because you can always pop the Omen or play Thirst for Meaning, right? Or cycle Cast Out or play some digs. And against control, you got all the card advantage at instant speed, right? You don't play any null sets or things like that. You just kind of pass, right? Play Omen, pass, right? Pop Omen, yeah, my turn, yeah. Thirst for winning end step. Do you counter it? No, okay. Draw 3 discard cards. And actually in the mirror, it's absolutely great because you can discard this dead removal, right? Whilst drawing 3, right? Basically instant speed. So that's a very, very powerful engine, right? So that what I did, right, for Brussels, I did to the GP with it, was very happy. But then again, I got so many questions about, why, playing Sensor, for example, right? Playing Azorius Charm, saying that Silk Wrap is like, of a card. So for the last month, no, not month, because that would, but like I say, 2 weeks, certainly 2 weeks, I've been playing this. So again, the core is the same. However, for Sensor, 2 Veto main, but that's like a flex-ish slot. For Charm, the same. Cat Cast out for an Elspeth. That's this. The rest is exactly the same, right? So basically, you change to Seal Away and to Silk Wrap for Azorius Charm, sure. You change these 3 cards, plus a Syncopate for a Sensor, and the last Syncopate for Dovin's Veto, right? This for an Elspeth. It's relatively clean. The change is relatively clean. So have I liked this build? I absolutely have. I thought that I want to be have a bit more velocity, I think, which was Azorius Charm, kind of digging through, Sensor digging through, Omen digging through the deck. And basically what I learned from playing Thirst is that Omen is the card which made it excellent, right? So I wanted to slot it in any blue-eye deck I'm going to play, because this card is absolutely excellent. Doesn't matter if you've got enchantment synergies, which you do, because that's an enchantment synergy. And Azorius Charm has been really good, actually, because if you queue into combo decks and control decks just a bit more often, which you now do, you don't have the problem of I need to draw Thirst to filter through, right? You just kind of cycle, right? Counter Magic is deadish, cycle, right? Elspeth has been really, really good. Like I was doubtful, I didn't play her, now I do, and this one-off is absolutely excellent in the main deck. Really, really, really like her. The rest of is obviously very good. The sideboard, the only thing I changed was cut a Rip and cut a Veto, because 2 are there, right? Remember the deck is 75 cards, right? So if I added a Veto there, I could cut it there to add another effect, and add it to Surge of Righteousness for mono black and mono red decks, because chunky red was kind of a goodish matchup, but they went super low to the ground with 1-drops, and mono black the same thing. So I thought very efficient interaction on turn 2, whilst providing some incidental life gain. That's just something I want to be doing, right? So I've added this, and this is what I've been playing for quite some time. Now, this is what I've been playing up until very recently, because then I started to think about the future a bit, about what I want to change for the next League 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Because I think the format is solidifying a bit. And I mean, now we know what's playable, what isn't. And now sometimes people play more of this, more of that. But we know what we could and should expect. Like if you over-prepare for Breach and Inverter and jam Disputes main, right? You might as well play against mono red, mono black, mono green, green black decks, and you'll get destroyed, right? So because you should never underestimate aggro decks. So what I really want to do is keep my deck as good as possible across the board, and then just focus more on strategy than the single cards, right? And then change, just tweak. But again, I don't want to add like you could say Veto is like that, right? But this is probably as far as I'm going to go, right? Because Veto is X, because it can tag, for example, from mono black, Thoughtseize, it can tag Swift End. Mono red, All the Burn, and Chandra, right? So it's not like a dispute, right? And it's still very, very, very powerful in the matchups where dispute is good, right? So that's the deck, right? That's the deck. And actually, I haven't had problem with a lot of decks. I've been winning quite a bit with it. Spirit, similar situation, because I always have, you know, turn to interaction, right here, always turn to interaction. So I was happy with it. 3 disputes are excellent, obviously. But again, then I kind of try to challenge what people have been telling me and asking me about. And this is basically the list of all the cards I've been asked about and I am asked about, okay? So let's go through all of them, okay? Main deck cards. And my thoughts. Field of Ruin. I think this card is not as good as it used to be. I think my version without Absorb could support 3 Field of Ruins, but and I played 3 Field of Ruins, but I just feel that this effect is not as good, basically. So I think 2 is perfectly fine. I even considered cutting down to 1. People very often play 3 Ardenvale and one Blue Castle, and I don't think that's a good idea, because having played all these matches, I think that there are very, very few situations where, when having both castles, I want to use the Ardenvale one, because if it's game 1, I'm going to create these tokens, right? But until my opponent is dead, I haven't really gained any advantage. Because, okay, make 1 token, make another token, make another token. Okay, it's 3 already. But it will still take like 6 turns to kill my opponent. And if they push 1, or no, play a Supreme Verdict of their own, or play blockers, I will have lost all these 6 turns of possible advantage, right? Which I would have had I used the Blue Castle, right? Because I can, for 6 turns, I can just set up my draws, and then whatever my opponent does, I still have retained the advantage. I have done something, I have accomplished something. While, just by creating a token and attacking, if I haven't reduced the life total to 0, I don't have that advantage, no tangible advantage. So I personally prefer 2-2 split. And to be honest, this card is good only because, 1, it's a costless win condition in the deck, so you don't have to jam other win conditions, and 2 control decks, right, in the mirror match. But other than that, if you don't play against control deck, it's just there to be there to win eventually. But until you've reached the point of full control, it's meh, really. Search for Oscanta. That was a very common question for the... Yeah, I'll make it bigger. For the Thirst build, I dislike Search for Oscanta. And it's not even about the lack of synergy with Dig Through Time or lack of synergy with Elspeth, the small Elspeth. It's about the fact that if you don't play it on turn 2, it's a play, not affect the board state, and tap, provide a minor advantage of just surveil 1, and that's it, right? Until it has flipped. If you play it on turn 2, then you haven't interacted on turn 2, or you haven't played Omen turn 2, and it still provides marginal advantage, right, over time. However, okay, at some point it flips. Okay, it flips. Now, when it flips, you still have to devote a bunch of mana to keep using the effect. It's a good effect, right? But my point is that in order to get that effect, you'll have Search for Oscanta for quite some time in play, providing close to nothing. And if you happen to top deck Search for Oscanta, it's very bad. Because if you do have full graveyard, which means you haven't been using Elspeth or you haven't been using Dig, let's say, so that's still a marginal scenario. You play it, nothing happens, you pass, you ante up, and then it flips, right? And then you can use the effect for mana, right? So I think the cost of... I think it's not that bad, that good, right? On top of that, when you play a turn 2, right, your opponent, control opponent, can just Teferi it back into your hand, right? Which is when you want such effects, right? These card advantage effects. right? And if you just say, no, turn to this, they play Teferi bounce, you've lost the tempo, huge tempo, there's huge tempo loss, and they've got the Teferi, right? So, yeah, that's, and in enchantment build, actually, it's worse in enchantment build because you don't put that many cards in the graveyard because you've got all these enchantment removal. So it's actually worse, I would say, in the enchantment build. Omen of the Sea. Nuts. Like this, now, it's probably one of my favorite cards in Magic. Opt isn't close to being close to this card. Opt, I mean, the thing with Opt is it has got kind of average floor and kind of average ceiling, so it's always good, right? It's never bad, it's always good. However, Omen, okay, it costs twice as much, but the format isn't so fast, especially right now, when you've got plenty of time. I mean, plenty as in turns 1, 2, 3 are not as relevant, while turn 4 is super turbo crucial, right? So you should take a full advantage of these turns. And Omen has got, like, you cannot basically miss a land drop if you've got 2 lands Omen, right? And in draw-go situations, which I really like doing, you just play Omen, trigger, right? Do the, all the shenanigans with the trigger, and then you can pop it whenever you need to further dig into your deck and to keep drawing gas, right? Or whatever you might need. Really like Omen. I'm not looking back on Opt. Like, there is one more argument. So, like, I play Omen, not Opt, which is worse with Monastery Mentor. But, like, sure, but it's not that much worse, because how often really do you play Mentor, untap, and then hold 3 Opts or 2 Opts just to chain with Mentor? Most probably not. You're using Opts early. Oh, you've got 1 Opt, right? So, like, I mean, in practice, I think this argument doesn't hold, and it's especially irrelevant when looking at Omen in general, how powerful the card is. I'm not going to stop playing it. You know, its ceiling is 2 mana, set up my, top 3 cards, and I can bounce it with small Teferi, draw again, and just, like, go nuts. Censor. I've been very low on this card for a very long time, but I've changed my mind. I've really liked it. I really wouldn't want to play fewer than 4. I don't think there is much to say. Turn to interaction is very relevant. And this card is very good at turn to interacting. So yeah, I've really liked it. Brazen Borrower. People have been telling me that they've been testing like 1 because it's interaction plus pressures with Planeswalkers. Sure. However, 1. How many Planeswalkers realistically have we got right now? Or in general, what Planeswalkers do people play? Right, so like, if they play Blue-Eye Control, okay, it's okay, but it's still 3 mana creature, which pre-board gets removed by anything, and post-board gets easily disputed. And against other decks, a Chandra maybe, right? But the point is that you will bounce the Chandra rather than attack it. You can attack it later. But it doesn't block. Like, if this creature blocked on the ground, I would probably have a different perspective on that. But it doesn't. Okay? So, I'm kind of low. I'm kind of low on this card. Narset. People kind of keep coming back to Narset because of the combo decks. But I believe that's not a good move, actually. Because when you look at the decks, actually, Blue-Black Inverter draws cards with Opt, mostly, right? They play like 1 or 2 Omen. Obviously, depends on the build, right? But no, Oracle doesn't draw. Dig doesn't draw, and that's the big one. Thought Erasure provides advantage whilst not drawing. And they can still Opt, but on our turn. They can still Omen, but on our turn. So I don't think it actually accomplishes much. And against Breach, it doesn't stop strategic planning. It doesn't stop Fey of Wishes. It stops Pour Over the Pages. And that I agree with. However, if you but now we've got specifically Pour Over the Pages against Blue-Red Breach. And literally the whole rest of the format, right? You've got the mirror match, sure, but then again, I'd much rather hold up my mana and do shenanigans with Omen to provide me advantage than play 3 mana Sorcery Walker which can get censored, which can be disputed, right? So I think it's only good against Paw Feather pages and kind of against control, but we've got the whole rest of the format, and I think she stops shining there. Very often you'll play her, take a card off of it, and she'll die. Sabotage, Void Shatter, Absorb. So I know people have been going off and on, which is better. So very quickly, Absorb provides life gain, which is actually irrelevant, kind of, because post sideboard against red decks and black decks, you won't have a 3-mana counterspell. You shouldn't. So putting it in your deck, because aggro decks, and then cutting it post board doesn't make sense. You could say that you need just game 1 life gain, because then you get better, and that's a fair argument. But I think Absorb is just, against anything else, it's just a cancel with terrible, very expensive cost, a very difficult cost. Now this is the most controversial one, and I think that's actually kind of marginal here. If you really want to play Void Shatter, do. But I think that against a lot of decks, Surveil is a very powerful resource to fuel Dig, to fuel Elspeth, and to just fix the draws. Because if you top deck a Sabotage, it actually kind of, gets you going a bit more, rather than just counter. And, Void Shatter cannot be disputed, that I agree with. Are there that many disputes? They kind of are. So I think you could pick whichever you want. I personally think this is way more versatile and less kind of meta reading dependent. Elspeth Sun's Nemesis. Okay, so I think this card is excellent. I think as a one-off main deck, it's been excellent. Like the blockers, the life gain is huge, and the fact that, like I say, I play her and let's say minus to gain life or minus to create tokens, just trade off a bit, she dies, and then I continue the game. So she's kind of fogged turn 4. But then whenever I find it necessary, I can bring her back and continue with the game. Cast Out. Yeah, it has really fallen off. Like, we don't have many planeswalkers. We don't have that many proper non-creature permanents. And I've been really low on Cast Out. I used to play 3. Now I would really just could see playing 0, right? Because of I'd rather play like Dovin's Veto than a Cast Out. Elspeth Conquers Death. People have me asking me about it. I really don't understand the appeal, because it's 5-mana sorcery, mode 1, maybe exile something. 2, that's irrelevant because we're not setting up anything on our turn really. 3, hopefully return something from the graveyard. But if you play it on like turn 5, the last mode is dead basically, because you won't have anything to bring back. So NF from me, it doesn't pass any test. I think it's unplayable in blue-white. Gearhulk, again, that's probably one of the most popular ones. 1, doesn't have evasion. 2, it gets disputed. 3, if you don't use it on Dig, which is a 2-off, it's bad. Like, what are you going to do? Gearhulk and Azorius Charm? Gearhulk and Opt? Gearhulk, okay, a counter spell, maybe, sure, then it's fine. But I don't see the appeal, really. I don't see the appeal. And also it will be the only creature main deck which would give the target. Elspeth Sun's Champion. So similar to Hulk, kind of, I really hate cards which are purely win conditions. And it is a purely win condition. It doesn't provide advantage. It's just like, slam, and it's just a win condition. And 6 mana is really expensive. It's really expensive. And the thing is that, okay, she wins the game at 6 mana, but I might as well win the game at 5 with Teferi, and 6 mana to create three creatures, and I can still get flown over or trampled over. Or just I dislike that fact, right? And against like control decks, you have to resolve a 6 mana spell. That's a lot to ask for. Dig Through Time. I put it here just to tackle the topic of what if it gets banned. Very quickly. I and we shouldn't care. If they ban dig, we'll play something else. That's so many powerful blue and white cards in the format. Just don't think about it. Focus your energy on playing the games, playing them well. Don't think, oh, what if they ban dig? If they ban dig, we'll think about it. But so far, and again, in the future, I wouldn't care that much. We will find a replacement very easily. Thassa's Intervention, I think this card is just almost playable. I might actually play one copy. I think one copy is justifiable. I know LSV also used to play it, and he said it's underwhelming. I had a similar impression, but I might come back to this card. Actually, a card I forgot to put here is Gideon of the Trials on this list, which is a very popular one, and I think this card is okay, potentially good actually. Yeah, I think it's good. The zero effect, right? The emblem effect is for the combo decks, right? And I fully get that. But the thing with Gideon is actually he's not dead otherwise, right? Because he can just prevent all damage from a creature. He soaks up a bit of damage, especially again like burn and mono black. You can just make the emblem, and you are kind of safe-ish, right? So I think he's good, especially in this meta. Woof. That's a lot of talking, and it's already been 26 minutes. I'm very sorry, but that's it. No, again, I really want to give you all the information. And sideboard, Devour Decree. People have been asking me about Devour Decree. I really hate sorcery speed, because if the opponent plays a creature and attacks, I have to wait the whole turn cycle to use it, and that's very bad. Aethergast, I put it here just to stress how powerful this card is. Play with it and see how powerful it is. It affects the stack and the board. You can use it on a Chandra on the battlefield, on a Nifmiz Parun, which is on the stack, on the battlefield. It's great. And a quick trick, if they have, let's say, a Chandra and they draw a card, then in the draw step, put it on top, because they will most likely put it on top. Because then they will not have access to it on that turn. If you do it on the upkeep, they will redraw it. Dumping Sphere. Yeah, sure, but I think it's just absolutely narrow, because it really works only against Lotus Field, and only. Then I'd much rather play other cards which beat the deck, like another Dispute, another Veto, or my favorite sideboard card, Monastery Mentor. It's 3 mana, go, untap, you're dead. Because you slam it on turn 3, and you can hold up all this counter magic up, all the Censors, the Vetoes, the Disputes. And the thing here with Mentor against, compared to other cards like Gideon Lay of Zendikar, or other cards, is that he comes in potentially in all matchups. He's excellent against combo, because they don't have a way to interact with it, and it actually kills. Control, because post-board there are very few actually answers to it. Ramp, right? It scales so much, it grows exponentially, so it kills actually your opponent. And aggro, but not red-based aggro decks, right? Because they've got very cheap interaction with it. They have to, like against mono green, mono black, they have to be able to contain it, right? They won't have fatal pushes post-board. They might have a swift end, but if you play turn 3 Mentor and they swift end it back, they've used the whole turn to do it. So, woof! These are all my thoughts on all these cards. So let's look at my absolutely not revolutionary, but kind of the list I will be playing going forward. So basically, I keep the 2 Vetoes, right? Because I've cut another cast out, which I might actually also cut this one. So I cut 2 cast outs. I cut a cast out for a Gideon, right? As you can see here. Yeah. And I cut a Settle for a Gideon. So I cut 2 4-mana cards for 2 3-mana cards, which is a good exchange. And they're cheaper. They actually could provide a bit more proactiveness to the deck, which I think is kind of good. And in the sideboard, I put the Settle in and Elspeth in for the 2 Surges of Righteousness. Because I thought that, one, creature decks are a bit less popular, and Surge doesn't hit green Stompy decks or Spirit decks, while Elspeth is much better against these black and red decks because of the creatures which actually trade and the life gain, and Settle is also much better because the ceiling is much higher, right, against all these green and spirit decks. So I put more high ceiling cards in the board, especially against red decks. I've got Gusts. So that's what I will be playing moving forward. I will put the video literally in probably like 30 minutes from now. I know it's long. I hope you've watched everything. Ask any questions you've got. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already to get all this premium, comprehensive Blue Eye Control content from me. And remember, hold my hand. Let's pass the turn together. See you next time. Cheers.